Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thank you so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds. So this is where I like to collect together all the different albums that I've purchased over the past week and present it to you. I get them from different places like my local record store, but also online retail like Amazon, eBay, and more. For this episode, I've got 9 CDs here to run through with you, and I can't wait to do that. But before we get started, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on really cool episodes just like this with new music finds and running through 9 CDs here. So normally we have new releases to kick things off with. I did not buy anything new that came out last week. It's actually been a pretty dry spell here for the last couple new release Fridays for me. Just not anything that I was interested in. Not that stuff didn't come out. But I'm looking forward to next week. There are a couple items, and it doesn't seem like there's anything really new or exciting on the horizon for a while. So I've been hitting up my local record stores and doing some deep dives into stuff like that. I've also been jumping on eBay and ordering a number of things that missing from the collection and stuff like that. So I was having a big trip on Poison and Mr. Big, specifically the errors with Richie Sambora. So I went back and I decided to order this one, Electric Joy from Richie Sambora. I believe this was 90 or 91 that this came out, and this was before he had joined Poison. I don't know how much these couple solo albums that he did prior to joining Poison had any influence or didn't have it. I'm not really sure how it is that the two found each other. I should probably look into that because I really do like the era with Richie Sambora. I think that Poison's album Native Tongue from 1993 is an absolute stellar album. It's different than the stuff that came before it, but Richie Sambora had a great flavor that he brought to them, and he did the same when he joined Mr. Big in the late 90s. So anyways, pick this one up here. This one's a little bit more bluesy and funky than the 2 albums that came prior to this one here, but I'm enjoying it, and definitely looking to, I've got one more of his early era albums to pick up, so I may be trying to hunt that one down if this dry spell keeps going. All right, last week I had the record of this, and I was having trouble finding it, but one of you guys pointed out to me that there was a copy, or a few copies for sale on eBay. Somebody had multiples of these, and so I picked one up. Black Rose. This is the Rock Candy Records edition of it, which is already out of print, but as I said, this one reseller had a few copies of the thing, and I believe that person picked one up, and I went and got mine, and I got it in record time, which was amazing. So I hope the other person got theirs really fast as well. Now, when I first heard it on record, it's kind of interesting. I sampled it when I was in the store. It bowled me over. I thought the thing was fantastic. I got home, played the record, and it didn't really do anything for me. And I was kind of bummed about it. Then I got the CD, and I popped the CD on, and lo and behold, it bowled me over again. So I'm glad that by the time that I got the CD, it wasn't something that I didn't really want by that point. The big key thing for me was Les Dudek turned out to be the guitar player on this album that Cher fronts. I was going to build around her and so forth to be that rock album. If you're not familiar with it, Cher is the lead vocalist for Black Rose, Les Dudek on guitar, and I know the other 2 guys also are fairly notable. This one here was really cool. I only just recently found this out. So Richie Sambora, Undiscovered Soul. I've got a copy of this, the US edition that came out in 1998. This is the 1997 version that came out in Japan and is actually referred to as a sneak preview version of it. In fact, this thing not only has a different track listing on it, but it's actually got a completely different mix. It's much more stripped down than the sort of overproduced version that got released in the US in 1998. There was Hammond B3 organ all over that thing. And it's very, very minimal here. You hear much more of the acoustic instrumentation. In fact, this album here feels like a direct successor to his previous album, first debut solo album. I think it's called Stranger in This Town. But this one, when he put out in 1998, it just sounded like he was kind of doing the flavor of the month sort of a thing with that Hammond B3 organ and everything in it. I found that I absolutely like this one so much better. If you're a fan of Richie Sambora, Bon Jovi, and you didn't really care for that 1998 album, track down a Japanese edition of it that came out in 1997. Looks like this. And the mix on this thing is wildly different. It is so worth having in the collection. So I'm enjoying that like I'm hearing it for the first time, and that just is a big, exciting thing for me. I love alternate mixes, albums, things like that, especially ones that I didn't know existed, and I get to go back and track them down and so forth. Today, that's happening a lot. People are putting out the new remixed version of an album, celebrating it with the remaster, and I do enjoy getting those, but it's just not as fun as when you discover one has been out this whole time and you had no idea. All right, and as I said, I also hit up my local record store. I went to Sound Exchange and had a good time there picking up a lot of metal stuff. Did one of the record store visit for metalheads, and number 2 on that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. And at the end of it, I then showed you these things here. So picked up Raven, Stay Hard. It's a reissue from the Atlantic Records label, but it's now on the Music on CD. So it's really nice because they reproduce everything about it that was the Atlantic Records version of it. They just slap onto it. You can see right there the Music on CD right next to the Atlantic Records logo. So it's not like it's Wounded Bird or something. They kind of completely redo the art, or even the Rock Candy Records ones, which modifies stuff. This just faithfully reproduces it, and that's very nice. All right, next one up. Diamond Head, Am I Evil, compilation album from 1987, would later be reissued in 1994. It's got 9 tracks on it. It's got everything you would expect from Diamond Head. Of course, it's got Am I Evil, which is the song that Metallica covered and made famous, and they had done their versions. There's a number of other tunes that they've also done covers of and stuff since then. So this band is really known as a Metallica band, a band that Metallica covered a number of tracks from, but they are outstanding. If you only know the Metallica editions of the Diamond Head songs, definitely check out Diamond Head. The other cool thing is Brian Tatler, the guitar player, is now playing for Saxon. So Saxon lost its main guy, Paul Quinn. He stepped down. He decided he doesn't want to tour anymore, and they brought in Brian Tatler from Diamond Head. So that just makes, for me, it makes it even better. And I'm really excited for the new Saxon album that's going to have him on it. It should be out sometime in 2024, I think the summertime. So I got a little ways to wait on it, unfortunately. All right, next one up. Vinnie Moore, Mind's Eye, 1986. I believe this is the debut solo album. There he is. Of course, current guitar player in UFO, but the stuff, the neoclassical guitar style stuff that he does on here, which is kind of akin to what Yngwie Malmsteen does, although they're really very different flavors, is not what he plays when he's with UFO. So he kind of went through this neoclassical phase and then into, a slowed down blues, hard rock, instrumental style stuff, and then eventually joining UFO and playing stuff like that. It's kind of interesting because when I look at his solo releases from today versus the stuff from back then, it's really like 2 completely different guitar players. But I love both of what he does, so I like having it all in my collection. Picked up Hanoi Rocks, Oriental Beat. This is the Uzi Suicide edition, and that was the Guns N' Roses label, and I thought it was cool that they had signed and put this stuff out. Everyone's always talking about how Axl Rose stole the moves from Michael Monroe, but no bad blood that's in there at least, and certainly helping them out, giving them a leg up, as they certainly deserve it. Hanoi Rocks is an amazing rock band. Certainly deserves a lot more attention than they've ever gotten. Michael Monroe still going strong today. His solo stuff is as good as the Hanoi Rocks stuff. If you were a fan of Hanoi Rocks and never checked out the solo stuff, do it. Then I picked up Primal Fear, debut solo album, or not solo, debut studio album from the band. It features Ralph Scheepers from Gamma Ray, Matt Sinner from Sinner, and of course these guys playing a lot of different things and whatnot. But apparently Ralph Scheepers tried out for Judas Priest, didn't get the spot, but they made an album or formed a band and made an album in that vein, and that's what this is here. And I have to say, I've never really been a fan of Ralph Scheepers, not with Gamma Ray, even though I like Gamma Ray, and not with what he's been recently doing with Michael Schenker Group. I really have not enjoyed those songs. He's a little too metal, in my opinion, to be singing for Michael Schenker. So finding something like this, Primal Fear, where I think his voice fits perfectly, and when I listen to this album, I'm like, oh my God, he actually would have been a great lead vocalist for Judas Priest, although I totally love Ripper Owens, so I'm glad they went that route. I'm glad I discovered who he was and that he's still around doing stuff in different bands and solo projects and whatnot. But very interesting to now understand that story and learn that, and then I'm checking out Primal Fear to see what Judas Priest could have been had he joined it. And I, again, have a lot of fun doing those sort of what-if scenarios. It's like the Richie Sambora album. It's what if that was the main one that was released, and the one with all the Hammond B3 organ that's all polished up and everything had been the alternate. Would the album have done better? Would I have liked it more at the time? Who knows, right? Last one. Saber Tiger Project 1. If you guys watched my rant about record stores and what drives me crazy, I showed you this one. This one had a sticker on the front of it from Sound Exchange that said produced by Ron Keel, and or it might have just said featuring. And I looked it up online because I didn't know anything about it, and I thought I knew everything that Ron Keel had sung on. And all I could find online was that he produced the album. And so I thought, well, I'm not interested in it if he just produced it. And I threw that segment that was in there. And it turns out I was totally wrong. And I have no problem admitting when I'm wrong, especially when it leads to finding an album that Ron Keel sings entirely on. So he was hired as the lead vocalist for Saber Tiger to record this. It's a Japanese only release. Well, I say that this is a Japanese release, but as I understand it, they wanted to release it throughout Europe, and that was the reason for hiring him, bring in an English speaking vocalist. So maybe they did do a wider release on it, but this happens to be a Japanese edition of it. You can see the spine of it there. It's heavier than Ron Keel's normal stuff, but it's got, of course, that same Keel sounding lead vocal that he would do with his own band on here. And like I said, I'm glad to be wrong because it led to me finding a new hidden gem that I knew nothing about. I thought it was just some one-off thing that he produced, but in fact, he sings on it. So, you know, I'm going to be wrong from time to time. It's going to happen. But there you go. 9 CDs that I picked up. Hopefully the background information on some of these things maybe sparked some interest for you and you want to go check them out, or it reminded you of something in your own collection to go dig through and enjoy. But either way, have a good one. Take care, and I'll be talking to you real soon. Bye-bye, everyone.